Hola, amigos! Brad Evans here from FTN Bets, FTN Fantasy, and FTNDaily.com. Joined by the bearded one, Eliot Crist, our COO of FTN Networks, and the handsomest man in our entire staff, a man whose hair is always finally coiffed, Jeff Ratcliffe. And this is the FTN Happy Hour. We got the divisional round of the NFL coming up here on Saturday and Sunday, a pair of games. Each day. I'm absolutely psyched. I'm absolutely pumped. I'm glad my Bears are no longer in this, so I don't have to watch crappy football. So we should have at least some delightful matchups on tap that we're all going to be consuming this weekend. We are, of course, presented by Tipico Sportsbook. You need to go there right now. Sign up for an account if you live in New Jersey. They got a $100 cash offer for new users, and the link is tippy.co, tippy.co/Wavos, and take advantage of that special sign-up bonus today. And, of course, they sent us some lovely swag. I am head to toe in Tipico, or at least just waistline up, because I'm not wearing pants, guys. What's the point? We're all quarantine bodied right now. So let your imagination run wild with that one. But, Jeff, let me go ahead and bring you in. First things first, let's dive in. Looking at the sides, looking at the totals at Tipico Sportsbook, what is one line in particular that you are itching to get some action on this weekend?
Yeah, since it's the best weekend of football, let's get one going here for the half.
Yeah.
You know what? I think this Chiefs-Cleveland game is fascinating. Nobody gave Cleveland a chance last week. Kevin Stefanski not there. Two of their starting corners out. It didn't matter. You knew right away, too, with that first play, anytime the snap goes like that, it reminded me of the Peyton Manning Super Bowl. It's like, it's over. They're going to lose. There's no way they can win this game. So I don't want to necessarily play, the line on this one, the spread on this one, that is, because, well, first of all, the Chiefs are really bad against the spread down over the last 8 games. They've only covered the spread once. But I'm really looking at, potentially going on the over in this one. Actually, you know what? Screw it. I'll play the Browns, too. The regular season underdogs covered 55.5% of the time. So why not? 10 points. Give me the Brownies. Give me the over.
Yeah, I think it's a great call. I'm with you on Cleveland, man. Plus 10's too many points. They can really take advantage of what the defense gives them, Cleveland. And what the defense gives you if you're Kansas City is a lot of space on the ground. And when you have the 1-2 dynamic punch of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, I think this is going to be a tough game. And as you mentioned it too, man, this team just kind of sloughed down the stretch. People are assuming that they're going to blow out everybody and get back to the promised land and hoist another Lombardi trophy. And I'm saying, hold your horses, not so fast here, because you said, last 6 games of the regular season, they won by 6 points or less in every single one of those contests, with the exception of week 17 that nobody cares about because they didn't play any starters. Elliot, are you with us on Cleveland? Practice? What's practice? I mean, they're like, listen, Allen Iverson, practice, man, practice. It didn't matter. They went out there and kicked in the teeth of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Are they going to be competitive against Kansas City? You're going to ride with Jeff and I on the points.
I agree with Jeff on the over. The Browns' weaknesses are really areas that the Chiefs can exploit in terms of they can't cover the tight end, they can't cover the slot, and they can't cover downfield. That is really bad news when the slot receiver is Tyreek Hill, the tight end is Travis Kelce, and Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback. That is a recipe for disaster. Now, I agree with you guys that Cleveland absolutely can put up points on the other end. Jack Conklin is a guy I really want to pay attention to. I have not shut up about Wyatt Teller and what he's meant for that offensive line.
Yeah, we're fully aware. We're fully aware.
Now we get to talk about Jack Conklin. I want to make sure, he's an all-pro. He was a hell of a signing. Jedrick Wills, Batonio should come back. Treader, that you can make an argument that the best offensive line, certainly the best run-blocking offensive line in football, and that's really where you attack the Chiefs, right? You attack the Chiefs on the ground and underneath. The thing the Chiefs have done a really good job is taking away the big play, but Jarvis Landry, Austin Hooper, Nick Chubb, that's not exactly how the Browns attack you. So definitely think they could lean on them. Think the game will be close. I do want to say that with the Chiefs being 10-point favorites, I think they should probably be like 8.5, 9. But they've been kind of playing that. They've been playing with their food, as Noah likes to say on to the window, where it's like they kind of just flip the switch. And when they feel like playing, they absolutely eviscerate people. And then in the regular season, they kind of did a lot of dilly-dallying. The game they really wanted to show everybody was the Ravens, right, on Monday Night Football. They came out and blitzed them. They had the national game against the Bucks. They came out and blitzed them. They had the game against the Saints. They came out. They looked awesome. The Saints ended up backdooring them. But, I do want to throw a little bit of caution to the wind. A game that I'm really interested in, and I think I'm probably going to be on the side of I think the majority of the money will be on the other side of this one. But I'm really interested in the Rams plus 6.5. Now, I would like it to get to 7. But, Wyatt Teller, Jack Conklin, there's something about the big uglies. Maybe it's just something, this quarantine body, I feel like I'm a big ugly. But David Bakhtiari is not playing in this one. And he's arguably the best left tackle in football. I obviously want to make sure Aaron Donald's healthy. But that Rams defense is no joke. And the Packers had a good run without David Bakhtiari this year. They did get blitzed in that Bucs game when there was a good front. Packers had a pretty easy strength of schedule. They played 4 teams that had a winning record. They only really dominated against the Titans in that weather game, right? They lost to the Colts. They got blitzed by the Bucs. And they controlled the Saints game for sure. But I think this game's going to be a little bit closer. You can attack the Packers on the ground. I think the Rams defense is good enough to make this a game that'll be really interesting. Jalen Ramsey versus Devontae Adams is probably the best positional matchup on the weekend. I do think this gets to 7. So I'm holding off right now because I would like the hook. But I think the Rams are a really interesting play this weekend.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And I don't think weather's going to play too much of a factor. It's going to be a balmy 34 degrees with some scattered flurries. That's it in northern Wisconsin. For mid-January, I mean, you might as well be in the Caribbean by that standard. It's kind of crazy. All right, let's get to the Fade 5 here. Jeff, I'm going to come back to you. Let's start off with numero uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco. Cinco, I guess I can count to 5. That is Cam Akers. This line has really fluctuated at Tipico Sportsbook. It opened at 71.5. It is now up to 74.5. It was one of the major headlines of the wild card round. 30 touches, over 170 combined yards. Getting in the end zone as well was Akers last week against the Seattle Seahawks. Can he come even remotely close to duplicating that yeoman's effort the second time around? This time, of course, going up against those aforementioned Green Bay Packers. So what do you think, over or under?
Well, I think it's a no play, to be honest with you. I'm projecting it at 74.7. This is one of those trap lines for sure. As we get further into the playoffs, you're going to see more and more lines like this that just tempt you to go over, but they're just a little bit too high. When you look at what the Packers have done against the run, the narrative, they stink, they're a run funnel, Mike Pettin, blah, blah, blah. Since week 13, opposing running backs are averaging 3.7 yards per carry against the Packers. They have faced Miles Sanders. They have faced DeAndre Swift. They faced Derrick Henry. They faced Monty, your boy, Brad.
Yeah.
David Montgomery over that span. I don't think this is a soft run defense anymore. So I don't think we can just say, oh, this is a slam dunk over. I do think he sees a lot of carries. He has 113 in his last 5 games. That's a lot. But I'm not going to play this one. This is just, it's one of those, it's like trying to lull you into the over. I'm not going to take the cheese.
Yeah, look, I'm going to take the cheese. Hopefully it's not going to be Limburger and it's going to be ultra stinky and pungent to the senses. But I'm a big fan of Akers. If you kind of look around at some of the rush attempts props that I've seen on the web, like 16.5. Oh my God. Yeah. Over on that. Yeah. I pound that. I love his receiving yards prop. That I've seen at 14.5 as well. A player that ran on 64% of the team routes last week. He played on 72% of the snaps at 3.46 yak per attempt. And you're right. Green Bay has certainly shown some massive improvement in its trench defense, but Cam Akers and with, full complement of tackles and offensive linemen that are healthy right now for this Rams offense as a whole. And Jared Goff, that thumb, not exactly 100%. I think it's going to be ball to belly early and often, or at least in the dump-off game as well to Cam Akers. So I love him. I love an anytime touchdown. He can find it at plus odds pretty much anywhere. I'm a big fan. So I'm sweeping it, man. I'm over on everything Cam Akers. Eliot, are you with me?
Yeah, I talked about big uglies earlier. Jeff said don't take the cheese, but I don't know how to avoid that right now in quarantine season, man. I'm with you on the 16.5 as well. That number is simply too low. In his last 4 healthy games, 99 carries. With Jared Goff banged up, and the Packers' run defense has certainly improved. I definitely think it's the best way for them to attack them. They are going to lean on him. Getting Andre Whitworth back last week, massive for that run game. I think he's going to get 20 plus carries again this week, as long as they don't get blown out. And at that volume, he doesn't really need to do much. Now, I got the number at a little bit lower when it opened up. 74.5 is actually where I'd marked as like, this is my cutoff point. But I do think ultimately he sees 20 to 25 carries, unless they get blown out. And then at which point the reception or the receiving yards of 14.5 becomes in play, because this is certainly a team you can attack through the air with a running back. So Cam Akers is going to get 80% of the running back touches in this game. Yep. So at that point, you look at the Packers. I mentioned those 4 games against like playoff teams. Those teams are averaging 30.8 carries per game and 144 yards on the ground. So like, if you believe the Packers are a little bit inflated based on who they've played, which frankly I do, I think Aaron Rodgers is phenomenal. Please do not tweet me that I don't think Aaron Rodgers is phenomenal. I think the Rams are going to keep this game a little bit closer, and it's going to be on the back of Cam Akers. And if I have him over 20 carries, I have to go with over 74.5 yards.
All right, Eliot, let me come back to you on this one. I know this is one of your favorite props because you said when I was putting the script together, make sure you include this. Now, this line is a little high at Tipico Sportsbook. It's 20.5 on Patrick Mahomes rush yards. Obviously, you use the FTN bets.com/prop-shop to search for the best lines across legal sports books in the United States. It's absolutely a free tool to use, but are you still looking to go over on this one for Patty Mahomes?
I am. Honestly, Jeff's going to be like, whoa, you're crazy when I say what I'm about to say, but that won't be the first time and it won't be the last time. I have him in the 30s. Last year, he averaged 8 carries per game. He had 53, 53, and 29 rush yards. Now, he did lose 15 yards on kneels, right?
Yep.
Are the Chiefs probably going to be winning the game at the end of the game and kneel? Yes. Do I think it's going to be from 8 yards back? No, I'm not worried about that. So, you're looking at a guy that averaged 8 carries and almost 50 yards per game last year in the playoffs. I talked about it a lot with Josh Allen, right? He hit early second quarter. In the playoffs, teams use the quarterback's legs more than they do in the regular season. He's also gone over this number in 4 of his last 5 regular season games. Like, Mahomes is sneaky athletic and he will use his legs. And the Browns have allowed the 4th most rushing yards to quarterbacks this year. So he's going to run more. The Browns allow it. And he's already averaging over this number in the regular season. It's the first time in my career at FTN I've put 5 units on something. I am all in on Patrick Mahomes rushing yards this weekend.
You are pushing the chips all in on Mahomes. I love it. I am also on the over comfortably, even on this 20.5 number. I think he's going to be in that 22 to 25 yard range. You mentioned what Cleveland has given up. Look, Sam Darnold ran for 20 yards against this defense. Joe Burrow went over this twice against this defense. So did Derek Carr, reaching into the 20s as well. And I'm not even talking about some of the other, more suitable dual threat quarterbacks in the league who coasted past this total. And Mahomes, he's opportunistic, man, averaging 4.1 attempts per game in the regular season. Jeff, what are your projections saying for Patty Mahomes?
Well, the projections are right online, a little bit below this line, but I don't think it's a projection thing. You mentioned those quarterbacks. None of those quarterbacks were 10-point favorites in those games. Patrick Mahomes has played 11 career games in which he's been a 10-point favorite or more. He is averaging 15.8 rushing yards per game in those games. That's 3.7 fewer than games where he's not a 10-point favorite. And if you buy it, you legit buy that they're winning by 10 in this game or more. He's done that 8 times. In those games, he averages 2 rushing attempts for 10.25 rushing yards. I just can't see how we can look back and say, well, the last few games he's done it, so therefore he does it in this one. I think this is going to be a different beast entirely, and I don't think he gets the over here, but I also am not playing this bet.
So I want to throw one quick thing in there. Were they 9.5? Were they 10-point favorites against the Texans last year? Now, they obviously played from behind, but that one is again, the last 4 or 5 regular season games, definitely, that's a small sample size. It's a trend. But for me, it's more about in the playoffs, I think quarterbacks run more. So the game script of these other games aren't as concerning to me. Because one of those games, for example, is the Jets. Cool. They're going to blitz the Jets no matter what. They're not going to risk him at all. So for me, it becomes, and playoff sample sizes are also small. It's just a trend of mobile quarterbacks running a lot more in the playoffs.
Yeah, and my belief is this falls into my narrative. I think Cleveland is going to cover. I think they're going to keep this one hotly contested from start to finish. And as a result, only takes a couple of times, Myles Garrett breathing down your neck, that you're going to flush out of the pocket and be that opportunistic runner. We shall see, but I am definitely breaking out the sledgehammer on the over on Mahomes, even at a 20.5 line. Jeff, let me come back to you. Stephon Diggs. Oh, actually, no, let's hold off on Stephon Diggs. Let's go to another running quarterback. Let's talk Lamar Jackson here for a second. Another guy that's just been obliterating his totals, running and racing past with strong conviction last week, flirting with the century mark repeatedly here down the stretch in multiple games. The line at Tipico Sportsbook is 77.5 against this Buffalo Bills defense that has been vulnerable against the run. So are you willing to take the over here, or do you feel that the under is more of the smart money wager?
Yeah, first, let me just say, Mike Jones. And then after that, 77.5 for a freaking quarterback? This is crazy. Unreal. And you know what? Yeah. I don't think this is one of the better plays on the board. There are a lot of other plays that I like, and I got a couple later on as some bonus on this show. But I do think it's playable at a unit. 83.9 is what I'm projecting him at. Over in 5 of his last 6 games. He's averaging 94.5 rushing yards per game over that span, double-digit carries in 9 of his last 10 games. I don't see any way. And I think it's going to be a lot like last week, where Lamar is going to be like, hey, guys, here you go. Just get up on it, and we're going to go. Now, I don't know if they win. This is a fascinating matchup. This is an absolutely fascinating matchup. But I know that Lamar is going to show up, and I know that line, even at 77.5, is too low.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. We're congruent there. I'm taking the over as well. I mean, there have been a number of quarterbacks that have had success on the ground against the Buffalo Bills this season. Maybe not to the level of, hitting 78 yards in a game. But still, Lamar Jackson with that game-breaking speed. You saw it last week. He's going to get at least a chunk gain or 2 in this contest that should surge him past the overall total. So this one I featured in my Fade 5 article. You can read right now for free at ftmbets.com. And I'm going to double down on it. Eliot, are you with us? Is it going to be a clean sweep on the over for Action Jackson, 77.5 rush yards?
Yeah, hot take alert. Mahomes runs for more yards than Lamar Jackson. That's a complete and total joke.
Wow, I was going to say, that's sizzling. That's hotter than the damn sun.
No, so you guys can clip that and take it out of context and enjoy. So congrats to our producer, Rob. You can make me look like an idiot if you want to. No, Lamar Jackson, and then I think it opened at 74.5. It's already up to 77.5. The Bills have used a lot more lighter fronts. It's kind of like the old Wade Phillip days with the Rams, where it's like, we want you to run so you're not passing. Shout out to the Bills for knowing analytics until whatever happened last week with the ultra conservative play calling that they had a lot of last week. I agree with Jeff. This is one of the most fascinating matchups. But Lamar's going to run a ton. He just is. I mean, since he's entered the league, who has more rushing yards than him? Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook, Nick Chubb, and Zeke. That's it. That's absurd. He's already got the second most 100-yard games ever in quarterback history. He's one behind Michael Vick. The man's been a starter for 2.5 seasons. It's absurd what he does on the ground. And, Brad, you and I were both all over it last week. And there's Lamar. All right, 4-yard chunk, 5-yard chunk. And there he goes for 55. And we've won. He's just so explosive. And you're going to say, and we talked last week too about hero ball. He's going to hold the ball a couple more times. That's going to increase his rushing yards. He's going to want to use his legs on the ground. So I really like Lamar over 77.5 yards.
Yeah, look, if Drew Lock can get to 36 against his front, I mean, you could easily double that number and get Lamar Jackson, to hopefully make a payday for us in the end. All right, let's move on. Same game, different name. Elliot, let me start with you. Stephon Diggs has been a human ATM machine. Man, just spitting out $100 bills every time you bet it over. The line has now been adjusted universally. In Tipico Sportsbook, and I've seen this at pretty much every single book that's out there, 94.5 receiving yards. Is this the week that Diggs actually tucks under?
That's a really good number. Like Jeff's point of, they make you still want to take the over because it's under 100 and you're like, oh, Diggs is a lock for over 100. At this point, I wouldn't play it. If you look at the star corners, Marlon Humphrey's legit. I mean, he's been targeted a lot. He'll see a whole bunch of different people. Diggs has the ability. He's like, I don't want to take the under because he's got enough volume, but I do think that the Ravens make it a priority to take him away and are able to limit him some. So, I mean, I think he ends up anywhere between 80 and 110 yards. And, I mean, obviously that's a huge range, but it's just not something I feel good enough about to bet on him this weekend.
Yeah, I wagered on it, but small. I mean, it was just kind of a token of my gratitude more than anything else. Just like, this has just been cashing repeatedly over and over and over again. It is plus odds on anytime touchdown out there as well. I locked it in at plus 110 on Stephon Diggs in that category. I think that's a safer wager. And I'm not touching the receptions because that's now up to like 7.5 at most books. This is a really good number. I'm slightly over on this. I think he's going to finish right there in that 95 to 100 range. Humphrey has given up 1.21 yards per snap to his assignments this season. Jeff, normally your projections are rather conservative. That's just the nature of projections. Is that certainly the case here with Stephon Diggs?
Yeah, and one more real quick thing on Lamar Jackson. If you go back and watch the touchdown run in the beginning of the game, you can pinpoint the moment where he sees that he can score a touchdown, right? He had another freaking gear above the top gear, which is higher than any other quarterback in the league, maybe except for Kyler, of course, okay. But you saw it, and then it was like, oh my God, and then he's off to the races, and he was going to do whatever he could to score that touchdown. I freaking love Lamar Jackson. But yeah, Stephon Diggs, this line is really tempting to take the over. I love what sportsbooks are doing here, but he is projected under on this line at 84.5. He has topped this line in 4 of his last 5, but only 5 of his last 12. So, he's not necessarily a lock from that vantage point. And then also when you look at what Baltimore has done against receivers, only 3 have topped this line all season long against them. Brandon Cooks, of course, Brandon Cooks. Why wouldn't it be Brandon Cooks? In week 2, 95 yards, barely got over. Terry McScorin got over in week 4, and then this is going to troll everybody for last week. Corey Davis got over this line as well in week 11. So I'm not very confident on that. Just based on the trends. Marcus Peters was banged up in practice this week, but got to limited, so he'll be good to go. Jimmy Smith not on the injury report anymore. Marlon Humphrey not on the injury report anymore. It's a very tough matchup. I'm going to stay away from it. I'm not going to play the under, but the projections certainly don't like the over.
All right, Jeff, let me come back to you here for number 1 here on our Fade 5. And look, we all love Nick Chubb. I think he's one of the best downhill runners in the NFL. I think it's really 1A, 1B between him and Derrick Henry. In that category, guy, it's been a yak pace setter the entire year on a per attempt basis. But we're not focused on the ground production in this one against the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm more interested in the receiving yards. The number at Tipico is 16.5. You might say, oh, that's absurd. This is a really high total for Nick Chubb. He hardly ever catches the ball, but we've seen an uptick in his usage in the past game here over the last several weeks, Jeff. And you know about Kansas City's vulnerabilities and underneath coverage. They gave up a boatload of yards, a boatload of receptions in the regular season of pass catching running backs. Will the recent trend continue for Chubb, who's coming off a season high of 69 yards, nice, against the Pittsburgh Steelers? Can he get anywhere remotely close to that here against Kansas City? So over under the 16.5 receiving yards for Rub-a-Dub-Dub.
Weird trends, though. Weird trends. He ran 19 routes last week, 10 routes for Kareem Hunt. The week before, Kareem Hunt ran 20 routes, 9 routes for Nick Chubb, and against the same team.
Yeah.
So I don't know what was going on with that. You are right, though. His work has increased. I don't want to play this. He projected at 16.1. I don't want to play this line. It's a great line. It's a great line. I have, though, seen 12.5, and it's currently 12.5 at a couple other sports books. Of course, you can use the prop shop over at ftnbets.com to find all those lines. Easy. Nick Chubb. It's the Google of prop bets. Boom. You got it. And you can see where I'm talking about there, 12.5. I will play the over on 12.5, 16.5, just too tight. Now, I know this is like kind of chickening out, Brad, but I have some extra bonus bets this week. I'm not just going to give one. I got a couple extra bonus bets because I know I'm saying no play on a bunch of these.
Yeah, I know. Bonus time is always the best time here on the FTN Happy Hour. I'm over even on the 16.5 line because, look, even if this game is tight, I still think Chubb's going to be highly involved based on the recent trend that we've seen, routinely getting that 15 to 20 routes per game, under the belt. So, and again, given the shortcomings in the short field in terms of coverage for this Kansas City defense, and look, even if Kansas City, posts a bunch of crooked numbers in the scoreboard, even better. Nick Chubb is a guy that's just such a dynamic player with the ball in his hands. Kevin Stefanski, Van Pelt, the coaching staff knows this. They want to get the ball to him, whether it's, an up the gut runs or in space on swing passes. And I think you're going to see that front and center here this weekend. Elliot, you got to ride with me on the over 16.5 receiving yards for Nick Chubb.
I'm a little upset we did receiving yards because now it's tougher for me to talk about Wyatt Teller. Though maybe they'll get a screen where Teller leaked out and he's the lead blocker. In that case, I'd be all over the over. I'm kind of with Jeff where I think it's the right number, 12.5. I would like the over more. But again, he's going to see increased usage. He's going to have an opportunity. They're going to work him in the screen game. This is where the Chiefs funnel targets, right? They take away the deep ball. They force you underneath. They want you to run your offense through the tight end and running back. So at that point, Nick Chubb's number is accurate. I mean, we're looking at a guy, too, that in a lot of his previous lines have been in the 6.5 to 9.5 range. So this is the books have adjusted basically to a full reception worth of yards. So I think it's the right number. 12.5 I think is too low. 16.5 is a no play for me.
All right, let's go ahead and get to it. Elliot, I'll start with you. Bonus time. What are some other bets that you're locking and loading this weekend?
So, yeah, the Cam Akers one, I think over 16.5 rush yards or rush yards.
Receiving,
Good Lord.
yeah.
That block. Cam Akers over 16.5 carries, I think is a really, 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 really strong bet. Again, 99 in his last 4 healthy games. Jared Goff is banged up. Whether or not the Packers' run defense is improved or not, that's still where they're going to lean. They're going to try to play ball control and play behind their defense. So I really like that unless you think the Packers are going to absolutely blitz them and blitz them early. I'm really interested in Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill this weekend. I mentioned that the Browns, they give up the second most fantasy points to slot receivers, using Jeff's awesome advanced DVP tool for the wide receiver cornerback matchups. And, Tyreek Hill runs 59% of his routes in the slot. He's got the second most deep pass targets to him. He's got the third most air yards, and the Browns are bottom 4 covering the deep ball. Yes, please, and thank you. Oh, you can't cover the slot, you can't cover tight ends, and you can't cover deep. Travis Kelce. My man has gone over 82 yards in every game since they've opened up the offense. And that was basically the moment against the Jets where they're like, hey, maybe we can have Patrick Mahomes throw the ball more than 25 times and this will work. And since then, the man has seen double-digit or 8 or more targets in all 8 games. He's seen 10 or more targets in 7 of the 8 games. He's gone over 100 yards in 7 of the 8 games. I know his number is really high, but I think that the offense is really going to run through those 2 guys, and they're going to have explosive outputs. So you've seen their numbers anywhere between 76 and 81 for Tyreek Hill, anywhere between 82 and 86 for Travis Kelce. Big numbers. I think there's basically a 0%, and not 0% chance, but there's a very low probability that neither one gets there, and I think there's a good probability that both get there.
Yeah, I love the Kelce overs, period, in the story. I'm with you there. Before I give you mine, I got a lot of extra bonus action here this weekend, Jeff. I know you're itching to throw out a couple of more bets as well. What do you got?
Well, just to go back to earlier, too, we obviously will not get a repeat of the second time that, and it was only 2 times that Baker Mayfield and Patrick Mahomes faced each other at the college level. And let's not forget, Patrick Mahomes showed up at Texas Tech, and everybody's like, all right, I'm out of here. Baker Mayfield was gone. Davis Webb was gone. They were all out of there. But second time they face each other, Baker threw for 545 yards and 7 touchdown passes. Mahomes threw for 734 yards and threw 5 touchdowns, also ran for 85 yards and 2 scores. This was not a video game. We're not going to get close to that, but, man, if you like some overs, those are numbers to chew on right there. All right, so let's talk some unders. I'll give you the overs first. How about this? Malcolm Brown, 11.5 rushing yards.
I did not expect you to say Malcolm Brown rush yards. All right, continue. Digress.
This dude's been over in each of the last 3. I haven't more than doubled this number. I could not think. 11.5. Are you kidding me? He's going to be used in this contest. That basically means, do you think Malcolm Brown gets 3 carries? Yes. Okay, over. Easy over. That's a gimme putt. A little preview, a little taste. You're probably, if you're watching this right now, you're a diehard. I see you. You're going to see this video on social media, so you get a little early taste of my one-play payday for the week. The Boink, Miles Boykin, over 8.5 receiving yards. You got to love that, man. Now, I know he didn't have any last week. He had no catches last week, but over in 4 of his last 6 games, and he's averaging 14 yards per catch. You think he gets a catch? He's over. It's easy. But this one, I think, is one of those lines that's really going to test people. 56.5 receiving yards for Antonio Brown. For me, this is an easy under, and I'll tell you exactly why. Last week, Antonio Brown played 45% of the snaps, and the reason why they did it, to keep Gronk in to block for Brady. Cameron Brate was running routes, so they went 12 personnel, 2 wide. Antonio Brown's on the sideline for a good chunk of the game. I think they do the exact same thing. It looks like Trey Hendrickson's trending towards getting back on the field, so they want to keep Brady upright because a rattled Brady is a losing Brady. They get rattled by that pass rush early and often, it's not going to be good news for them. So if they want to stay in that game, which is going to be an awesome finish to this awesome weekend, they're going to have to keep Gronk in. Brown's not going to be on the field that much. I don't think he goes over there, so I'm playing the under.
I love the Malcolm Brown call. That brings joy to my heart. At 11.5, I can see it. You're right. It's just 3 runs against the Green Bay Packers, who have been relatively inconsistent against the run, though, as you mentioned earlier, have certainly shown some improvement down the stretch. All right, I'm going to go rapid fire. J.K. Dobbins, anytime touchdown. Good Lord have mercy. At plus 120, that's what I got it at? Are you kidding me? You just got to back up the truck and give me, sacks of cash out of it. I mean, it's utterly ridiculous that this line is that low. A player that has scored in 7 consecutive games over that 7-game stretch. He's had 8 carries inside the 5, and converted 7 of those for a touchdown. And you get the Buffalo Bills, who allowed 15 touchdowns in 16 games this season. I certainly could see that extending another week here. It's actually 16 and 17, what the Bills have given up. So J.K. Dobbins, anytime touchdown. I am locked and loaded on that one. Also, let's go to that Tampa-New Orleans game. A couple of other ones that I like there. I like the under. You mentioned the under on Antonio Brown. I like the under on Mike Evans, my cousin, receptions on 4.5. I got that at plus odds. He has got quite the pugilistic past with one Marshawn Lattimore. Not guys that will be exchanging Valentine's cards anytime soon by any stretch of the imagination. The last 4 times they have gone toe-to-toe, it's Lattimore has got the best of Evans, as Evans has gone for 4 catches or less in each of those matchups. And I know Lattimore has been a rocky road this season, but, as Chris Collinsworth has said on national broadcast, Marshawn Lattimore is the type of player that elevates his game when the spotlight is cast upon him. And this is certainly going to be one of those moments. I think it's going to be more of a Chris Godwin game than it will be anyone else vertically in this offense for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then the last one, staying in that game, Alvin Kamara's receiving yards prop is one of the lowest you'll ever see for him at 35.5. And I know he's been tucking under that number routinely here down the stretch, but Tampa gave up the most receptions in the regular season to the running back position. Alvin Kamara way back in week 1 easily sailed past his number with 51 yards, and I think he's going to be a bigger point of emphasis in this game, knowing what the Buccaneers surrender typically to the running back position. 35.5, in my estimation, is just too low. And that is a wrap on the FTN Happy Hour. Again, check out FTNFantasy.com, FTNBets.com, FTNDaily.com. Use that promo code EVANS, EVANS, to score 10% off your subscription today. And sign up now if you live in Jersey to Tipico Sportsbook. Go to tippy.co/huevos with an H. Get a special sign-up bonus today as well. $100 in cash. You can't lose with it. Go win all the monies at Tipico Sportsbook. Good luck to everybody in the divisional round. And until next time, again, I don't have a drink. Cheers.